that, you know, the client is just saying, well, you know, I don't necessarily have to have this road, but, and then so we're saying to the city, well, you should pay for the mitigation in that area. And that just seems logical, but then, you know, I don't know. Okay.
Right, yeah, seems logical. Bowser would replace Fort though.
Right.
So that's over your Bowser Road bank. And then a pretty brief overview of the DNR Public Waters permit submittal. Generally speaking, pretty much all the information that you need for your joint application is also going to go in here. The difference is the DNR has a handy online system now, and so all of their submittals go through the MPARD system. It's going to include, again, a lot of the same information, your purpose and need, your alternatives analysis, your minimization, maybe replacement if it's going to be required. And then you'll probably also have to include some sort of hydrology reports or modeling data for those. And then watershed districts. So there are a lot of watershed districts and watershed management organizations across the state. Not all of them have a regulatory program, so if you're working within one, check their website or contact someone from their office to determine if they do have a regulatory program. If they do, their submittal requirements differ depending on the watershed and the type of project, but in general, you can probably expect to have to submit hydrology reports or modeling data if you have some sort of stormwater or water flowage related project, a drainage report, erosion control plans, wetland buffer plans, in which case you might have to also complete some sort of wetland functional assessment like a MINRAM. They also often regulate floodplain, and remember, it's important to remember that watershed district's floodplain and FEMA floodplain are not necessarily the same thing. So make sure that you check with your watershed district or WMO to find out what their flood elevations are based on. They might have their own models that need to be used. And then project plans. So those are some of the watershed district needs. And then in addition to the submittal applications, the submittal exhibits are also a very important part. And so making sure that those are detailed and easy to follow is also important. So showing plans and impacts over an aerial, as I mentioned before, is really helpful. It's just really hard to orientate yourself with a project that you're really not familiar with if you don't have some sort of aerial background to look at. Showing and labeling all the aquatic resources, so again, that's wetlands, wet ditches, tributaries, lakes, stormwater ponds, anything that has water in it out there, make sure you're labeling it and identifying it. That's really important for the Corps of Engineers especially. And then separating your impact types, so permanent versus temporary, cut versus fill, wetland versus wet ditch versus other aquatic resources, and then again, impacts by facility. So if it's because of a road versus a trail versus a pond versus a housing pad, what have you, just including breaking things down to that level is helpful for the reviewers. And so this example here is obviously a road project with a roundabout, but they also had trails in there, so there's fill from the roadway, there's fill from trails, there's some cut for a stormwater pond, and there's some temporary impact along there for construction. And so it just really lays out for the agencies what exactly is going on in that area. And then again, there are probably some other exhibits that will be needed for, say, watershed district applications. So just making sure you're referring to their individual rules for any of their specific requirements. And then cross sections, if they are going to apply to your project. You don't necessarily need a cross section for every impact, but try to choose representative cross sections for your project. And again, separate them by impact type, duration, what they're impacting, and then facility is also helpful. So here again, the different colors represent different types of impacts. So that was fill from a roadway, that was filled from a trail, that's cut, and just the different types of facilities that are causing impact. And so other submittal needs. So just a few other things to keep in mind when you're submitting applications, so that you don't come up against any surprises from timelines or application fees or things like that. So understanding review timelines and whether the decision that you're asking for is going to be a staff approval versus a board approval. Staff approvals typically happen faster. If it needs to be a board approval, there might be specific review timelines that need to be followed. And so you should check with your local government unit, either on their website or contact them directly for specific information related to those timelines. Fees. Some of the agencies require fees. The DNR requires fees. Some watershed districts require fees. And generally, applications are not complete until the fees are paid. So keeping that in mind and keeping your client informed of that so that there's no delay in the time that between when you submit an application and when the fee finally gets paid. Again, signatures from the proposer and or the landowner, making sure that you have the correct signatures or documentation that you need. And then also, again, remembering the local ordinances. So the locals might have different requirements for buffers or floodplain or specific mitigation criteria that you're going to need to keep in mind. And then just a quick overview. So again, there's a variety of agencies that regulate wetlands: Corps of Engineers, WACA, the DNR, watersheds, PCA, and then locals. Make sure you're evaluating your projects early to determine if impacts are likely or if they can be avoided through project planning. Unavoidable impacts require some type of approval, so coordinate with regulatory agencies early, and then thoroughly document your project needs and your sequencing efforts. And again, just try to keep your applications as thorough and transparent as you can so that it's clear to the reviewers what is happening on the project and why it's required. With that, I'll take any other questions that anyone might have.